What's going on, guys? Welcome on back to Second and Short and this week's episode of Movers Monday. We're going to be talking about our ups and downs on our fictional power rankings here for week 13 of the NFL season. I am Tyler Louder. He is Aaron Ben. I got it right this time, so we're good. How you doing today, my man?
Just terrible. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, you can't feel that terrible. The Titans only lost by 7 points, right?
We lost by 6 points to a team who played prevent defense the entire second half.
The Browns literally were like, oh, okay, I think we're good. And all right, do whatever you guys want out there. We're good.
It's like a Madden playing your older brother, and then he goes up by like 40 points and just starts fucking around.
He just is playing punt defense to make you feel better so you can score a touchdown. But we're going to do things exactly the same as we've always been doing them on this series. I don't know why I led that like I was...
That would need saying.
I led that like it was like, hey, something new is going to happen, but nothing new's happening. But let's jump on in. No Thursday night football, so all of our action is from Sunday. And we're going to start with a divisional rivalry game. We're going to start with the New Orleans Saints. We're going to start with the Atlanta Falcons. Before we get all this out of the way, in the past 2 years, the New Orleans Saints are now 8-0 without Drew Brees. Just a fun little fact. But let's talk about who's getting an up in this game.
Up for me, it has to be Michael Thomas. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he is the fastest player to reach 500 receptions in his career. He did that in just 69 games. Also finished the day with 9 catches for 105 yards. Helped my fantasy team out a little bit. It's pretty crazy number because the previous record it was 80 games. So that's pretty impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, 69, man. What a number, man. Isn't that just how the sports world works?
Significant number, to be sure.
Like you always see things like this happen in the sports world. You always see like, oh man, this team, there's no way they can come back. And then they do come back. And it's like, oh man, he just won on his final game of his career. This guy just broke a record on the number 69. Maybe it's childish, but it's hilarious. Big ups to Michael Thomas. We're not huge fans of Michael Thomas on this podcast. We don't like his attitude, but you know, he's a hell of a slant artist. So you got to give props where props are due. Let's talk about a down here. And it's a weird down because Taysom Hill, who is our down, kind of, played pretty well, except for a couple plays. Taysom Hill's hands are getting it down for us here because that man fumbles.
Yeah, I mean, he had 3 fumbles this game. He didn't, look sure of himself with the ball in his hands. I don't know, it just looked like he had baby hands the whole game. 3 fumbles, lost just one of them. But I mean, other than that, he continued to be impressive. Threw for his first couple passing touchdowns of his career. So I mean, it's not a huge down. I don't think there were a lot of downs to give in this game. But yeah, he's got to get the fumbles under control.
Yeah, as soon as I saw those fumbles, I was just picturing him being like, wait a second, was he that guy in that Burger King commercial back in the day? And it's like, how can he eat this Whopper with these little hands?
I wish I could see our hands right now.
So Taysom Hill's hands get a slight down. He's fumbling a lot. And the reason why that's a down for us is because he's more of like a wildcat type guy. He's not a purebred quarterback, at least in my eyes.
Well, and according to ESPN Fantasy, he's a tight end. So, I mean, take that into account.
That was for 1 week. But let's move forward to our Detroit Lions taking on the Chicago Bears. The Bears took an early lead in this game and were kind of cruising at halftime. And then out of nowhere, this Detroit Lions team was clutch.
Well, I mean, big ups to Matt Stafford is my up here. He threw in his first game without Matt Patricia, threw for over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, led a 10-point fourth quarter comeback. I mean, we've all known Matthew Stafford to be this kind of a game-winning drive enthusiast. Fun fact for you, the Lions scored 34 or more points in one game with Matt Patricia as head coach, and they scored 34 in the first game without him. So that's kind of shows you the state of how things were.
Coincidence?
Probably, yeah. No, I don't think it is. That's my whole point.
It's actually kind of funny because I mean Matthew Stafford looked sharp. Like it wasn't like he was sitting here with like a 90% completion percentage where like everything was a straight dime, but he was making good throws. He was putting the ball in positions that only his teammates could get. In the second half, he had over like 211 yards with 2 touchdowns and interception. Played a lot better in that second half, accuracy-wise as well. Getting it down for us here is the Chicago Bears' second half defense. I mean, you have a 10-point lead, and then you give up 3 touchdowns in the second half, including 2 touchdowns in the final minutes to lose this game. Like, just run the ball. Just run the ball.
Wasn't that one of our points on Fantasy Friday where we talked about David Montgomery could have a big game? And I mean, he did have a pretty good game, but you got to be able to lean on him to run out the clock, but you got to be able to lean on the Bears' defense. If the Bears are known for one thing, that's defense, and they kind of shit the bed on this one.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if you have a workhorse running back, treat them like a workhorse. Run them. Use them 20-plus times a game. Because even if he was only getting 2-3 yards a carry, which I know isn't good, he's still taking off 30 to 40 seconds off that clock. And I think if they were properly using the ball on offense, that this wouldn't have happened. But it did happen, and the Bears' defense in the second half just collapsed. Simple as that. They are officially where we thought they were. If you go back like 3 weeks ago, Molly was right. This team is overshooting, and they're bringing themselves back down to normal. So, big up for Matt Stafford, big down for the Bears' second half defense. And now, we kind of opened up with this. Let's talk about your Cleveland Browns defeating your former favorite team, the Tennessee Titans, because you're switching fandoms after a game like that, right?
They have to, yeah. I'm gonna start with a down here just to get out of the way. That's obviously the Titans' defense. A couple weeks ago, they lost their play calling inside linebacker Jayon Brown. Combined with the fact that they have no defensive coordinator for whatever reason, the defense just looked out of sync. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing. Every single player played worse than he could play. Secondary gave up big plays. Kevin Byard had just a very bad miss in coverage in the end zone on one of their first touchdowns. The defensive line generated no pass rush. They had no sacks, and they continued to give up big third downs. So everything that you could do wrong in defense, they did. Who do you have going up for them?
I mean, to touch on that real quick, is that we thought the Titans were going to fix their third down defense, and it's back to the same. They're not. They're still on this historic pace, and they're probably going to break a record, not one you want to break. Shifting over, getting it up, is Baker Mayfield. Over the past couple of weeks, what has everybody been doing? They're saying this Browns team can win with their pass rush and their run game. They're not going to win with Baker Mayfield because the guy can't throw a good pass. He can't throw for over 120 yards. Now, let's hold up on how much of a move up this is, because there was a lot of sloppy passes. Like, he was throwing the ball, and it was almost doing front flips on its way there. But he still completed 334 yards. He had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He even caught a first down pass on a reverse, like a double reverse to Jarvis Landry. It was a fun little play, and he he almost like toe tapped it in. He played well, and he looked in this game, outside of like 3 or 4 throws, he looked like the Baker Mayfield we saw at Oklahoma, just slinging it and just hitting open receiver after open receiver. And I think right now, if Baker plays at this level, the Browns might be the scariest team going forward, considering the fact that their rush offense is so good. So getting up Baker Mayfield, get it down Titans defense again. Now, that game was high energy, lots of scoring. We had a game that wasn't a lot of scoring, but had even more energy. And that was the Miami Dolphins taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And man, where do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Flores, who's our up, or do you want to start with our down?
Well, first of all, I just really like Brian Flores as a coach. He's getting big ups from me. I think he's probably the only Belichick disciple who's going to actually do anything. He just looks like the kind of coach that players would run through a wall for. I mean, the team went down 7 7-0 on that long touchdown. But then Brian Flores rallied them. They scored 19 unanswered points to win the game. And then, like, beyond the actual like football play, Jakeem Grant, the punt returner, got lit up on a dirty play, and Brian Flores was, I mean, he just about went and got in a fight with the Bengals players himself. You gotta love seeing a coach go out there, be willing to stand up for his players, and I think he's gonna be a great coach in this league for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there saying that he's the type of coach that players want to run through other people for, but it looks like he wants to run through people for his players. Like, that's the ultimate respect. And when you see something like that, you just have to know that that locker room is clicking on all, like, it's firing on all cylinders. Everything goes, like, they like each other. That's the positive part. I mean, we just saw in an interview this past weekend that Aaron Rodgers was talking about his teams, and the team that won the Super Bowl wasn't the best team he's ever been on, but everybody liked each other. Like, they got along. They just had chemistry. We see that here with Miami. And with Brian Flores getting it up, his play calling was correct after they went down. It was a lot of check downs, but it was efficient. They moved the ball well, and they ended up winning this game. Now, what gets it down here for us is cool heads. There was several ejections in this game, several roughing penalties, unnecessary roughness. That hit that you saw in this little highlight we had here on Jakeem Grant was way unnecessary. I've never seen anything like that in, like, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen somebody hit a punter like that, a punt returner like that, for no reason.
Yeah, and I mean, you could make the case that the first two, like Boyd and the Howard, shouldn't have been ejected. They weren't really like throwing punches, but it kind of set the tone for the rest of the game as well. At one point, like after that hit on Jakeem Grant, this like full-on brawl broke out. So, I mean, you don't want to see that. You want to see players just playing how you're supposed to play. Someone gets hit, help each other up, and go home and make tea and cookies afterwards, and move on to the next game.
All right, next game: Minnesota Vikings, Jacksonville Jaguars. And I was on pins and needles this whole time. I thought the Jags were going to get the upset, and they almost should have. But, you know, stop dogging on Kirk Cousins. This guy is the reason that you're doing well right now. Let's talk about him. Kirk Cousins gets an up for us. Pretty much the Vikings' like resilience and inability to just give up and lose this game, led by Cousins.
Yeah, you got to admire the leadership that takes a team that's 1-5. I mean, you kind of think, all right, 1-5. That's your season's done. You're kind of just playing for contracts, playing for like a free agency audition for next year. But then since they started 1-5, they've gone 5-1. So they're at 6-6 right now for all you math nerds. Taking over the 7th seed in the playoffs. Remember, they're the 7th seed now. And they're firmly in this playoff race, and they're looking pretty good. I mean, Dalvin Cook's running like a monster. Justin Jefferson looks great as a rookie. Adam Thielen is still his old self, and Kirk Cousins, like you said, he's the leader of that team.
Justin Jefferson over 1,000 yards receiving in his rookie year, which is huge because we don't see rookie receivers do that a lot outside of like that like wildly historic like 2014 wide receiving class. And A.J. Brown last year. Overall, he's playing really well. And we saw Adam Thielen make a lot of great catches here. Dalvin Cook wasn't relied on as much. And the reason why Minnesota had to fight so hard just to win this game in overtime against the now 1-11 Jacksonville Jags is because of the combined kicking. Like, the kicking in this game was bad. I don't know what it is. I don't know if like Minnesota Vikings kickers historically drink bad water or like they just aren't drinking enough Gatorade or Powerade, whoever sponsors the NFL. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe all the kickers in Minnesota are just drinking the Budweiser that they're sponsored by. And they're just like, I don't know. Combined though, 5 for 10 on the day between both kickers. Granted, the Jags kicker, one of his misses was a 62-yard attempt to win the game at the end, but he still came up about like 8-9 yards short, which is not good at all considering the fact you're supposed to be able to kick off for 70 yards. Talk about the kickers here.
Well, yeah, and don't forget the Jags kicker also missed an extra point, which is supposed to be next to automatic. Blair Walsh, Dan Bailey missed a potential game-winning 51-yard field goal. And it's still a pretty long field goal, but if you're an NFL kicker, you got to make those to win the game. missed 2 extra points throughout the game, and finally won the game on the chip shot field goal. It kind of reminded me of Week 1 with the Titans against the Broncos when Gostkowski missed like 12 field goals, but then he hit the game winner. So it's kind of the same type of deal. Kicking gets a huge down from us.
All right. Now let's move on. The New York Jets tried so hard to win this game for about, I don't know, all of 20 seconds. And then the final 20 seconds, they were like, whoa, what are we doing? We don't want to win a game. Darren Waller, before we dive into how bad the Jets are, because that's what we're going to talk about. So we always talk about. That's what everybody talks about. Darren Waller was a beast. Scored like 40 plus fantasy points in most formats, including PPR. This guy was open all day.
Monster game. 13 catches for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. That is insane. You hardly ever see that from tight ends. I mean, George Kittle had a game like that last year, but other than that, that's a crazy stat to see.
Yeah, I was sitting here because I worked during the games. Little like information nobody cares about. But I work during the game, so I get to watch them while I work. But while I was watching it, I have family that was there, and they're Raiders fans, and he's sitting there watching, and I'm like, oh man, like if we get a quick slant on Darren Waller right now, he's gonna be gone for like 15, 20 yards. And again, quick slant, inside. Like linebackers cannot cover this guy. I don't know what it is. Even cornerbacks, unless they've got great hips and can turn and they're agile really well, they can't cover him. Like, there was one time they were like 30 yards out, and he did a little post route, and all the cornerback could do, because he couldn't turn his hips fast enough, was just trip Darren Waller. That's all he could do. And that's all you can do it sometimes. Now, talking about Jets defense, let's talk about Greg Williams, who rest in peace, or whatever we say when an NFL coordinator gets fired.
I think we say good riddance.
Good riddance. He's gone. That last 20-second sequence, what was going on?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, regardless of whether you think it was on purpose or not, I mean, it's a ridiculous play call. To set the scene, Raiders are up, Raiders are coming back. They are down 4 points, need a touchdown to win. How far were they? Like 40-something yards. So of course they're going to throw a Hail Mary, right?
Greg, not only once, they did it twice.
Oh yeah, I mean the first time cornerback got burned, they just missed the pass. Pass was a little bit off target. Second time, did it again. Greg Williams called an all-out blitz, left no deep safety help. He decided that an undrafted rookie cornerback was probably the best option to cover one of the fastest receivers in the NFL, man on man. And just Henry Ruggs burned him, had the easy catch for a touchdown, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was just bad. It wasn't good at all. There was nothing good about that. And I mean, all you have to do is just put cover 4 out there, just drop 4 deep, and let everybody else kind of man. Like, don't send 2 guys, send 1 guy, send 1-man blitz. What are they gonna do? Like, the offensive linemen have to stay there. Just drop 10 guys into the end zone. Like, they're not going to score on you. And they did. And here's the thing. I'm a little upset because our sleeper for fantasy was Nelson Aguilar. And had he caught that 45-yard touchdown, that would have been about 11 points or about 10.5 points on one play. And I would have just been even more correct than I already was on other fantasy stuff this week. But Greg Williams, good riddance. Sorry, man. Good luck getting a job. Next year, who knows? Maybe he'll be like a defensive line coach or something. But let's move to a game that you weren't happy no matter what happened here. Indianapolis Colts took down the Houston Texans, and they did so in weird fashion. Texans center Nick Martin.
Yeah, our down here is Texans center Nick Martin. Just a quick scenario: the Texans are down by 6 on the goal line with less than 2 minutes left. Deshaun Watson is moving the ball pretty well for the last couple minutes. Been threw for over 300 yards to wide receivers named Kiki Kuti and Chad Hansen, whoever the hell that is. So I mean, it's looking like a pretty sure deal that he's gonna get the touchdown. They're gonna pull out the upset win over the Colts. And then Texans center Nick Martin decided, hey, I'll just fart out this low snap that no one can really handle, and Colts recovered it, and that's the end of the game. And we all got to see J.J. Watt looking on in disbelief.
I mean, yeah, this Texans team wasn't going to make the playoffs, but to be honest, this Texans team is a lot better than their record shows. They play well with, maybe they just play with their competition sometimes, but I mean, they've played playoff teams really well. Now, let's give the Colts credit here. The Colts ran the ball well. They threw the ball well. T.Y. Hilton looked like old T.Y. Hilton. And Jonathan Taylor, I don't know what it is. Like, 1 week he's cold. They don't want to give him the ball. The next week, they're giving him 16 touches. And what do you know? He does well. He looked like he was running for the Badgers out there.
He did 13 carries, 91 yards. That's 7 yards per carry. And he threw in 3 receptions. He's not really known as a receiving back, but that's something he did improve in his senior year at Wisconsin. He had 3 receptions, had a kind of 39-yard catch and run for a touchdown, and go Badgers.
On 4th down as well, like, he was wide open on that touchdown. And, I mean, yeah, he had to beat one guy, but he had like a 5-yard gap on him. Jonathan Taylor gets an up for us, and center Nick Martin gets a down. We don't really give offensive linemen like centers downs, so I don't know when this guy's ever going to move up. Who knows? But he gets it down. Enjoy being down there, man. And that takes us from our morning slot to our afternoon slot. And with our afternoon slot came another divisional game. Los Angeles Rams, Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a good game. What did I say? This is going to be a high, like there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I said that on our fantasy episode. So Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, they're both going to look good. And actually, rookie running back, another rookie running back, Cam Akers, he looked really good out there. He's finally looking like the starter here.
Yeah, the last couple of games, seen his touches really kind of increase. He's had at least 70 yards each of the last 2 games, had a touchdown each of his last 2 games. And I really liked seeing him run last night on the touchdown. He had 9 yards out. He just kind of ran through the entire Arizona Cardinals defense, and it was just kind of a really nice, like, hard-hitting football run. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you say you like seeing him run. That's kind of weird. Kind of weird. Don't you? I mean, but I mean, hey, whatever, man. You do you. Whatever you like, your preferences. But no, yeah, he's looking good. And anybody that plays dynasty football and everything, Cam Akers looked as one of those guys that you could get in the middle of your first round of your rookie draft, and you thought, oh, I got a steal here. I got a running back that's just as good as the other guys, but I got him a little bit later, and he hasn't got the chance to live up to that. But even with them giving Henderson some touches, he was able to produce back-to-back weeks. Cam Akers, big up for us. Who's getting it down here this week?
For me, it's Kyler Murray. I think the league has figured him out, kind of like they figured out Lamar Jackson, and everyone's kind of copying what the Patriots did last week. You just can't let him run. You just got to hold him as much as you can. Hold him to not let him get these big, like, 30, 40-yard scampers downfield. And that's what the Rams did last night. Held them to 15 rushing yards, 170 passing yards, just like a pitiful 4.4 yards per attempt. He did throw for 3 touchdowns, but, I mean, that's not the performance you're looking for in a big-time division game.
No, and I think what will allow Kyler Murray to stay relevant? Like, this isn't a huge down. Like, I rewatched the game with Game Pass and everything this morning, so I could see it faster and everything. And like, although his stats didn't look good and everything, he has a quick release on him, and he's able to get the ball out of there. So even though they were bringing pressure, like if that was a different quarterback that had slightly slower release time, he would have taken like 3 or 4 more sacks than he did. So that's a little props to him there. But this Cardinals team, a couple weeks ago, were in firm position of a 6 or 7 seed. And right now they're in a tiebreaker situation where they're outside the playoffs. And that shouldn't be happening for a team that's this like electric on offense. All right. Everybody saw this coming. I even saw some sidebar tangent kind of, I don't know. I saw some idiot on like Facebook in a group that I'm in that was like, "Where are all you Seahawks people now? I thought the Seahawks were going to beat the Giants." Like, shut up, man. Even you're a Giants fan. You didn't think they were going to win. But the New York Giants are on a roll, 4 games in a row, and it's because they look like the old Giants. This pass rush is back.
Sorry, they got to Russell Wilson early and often, 5 sacks on the day, including a really, really crucial 3rd down sack late in the game when Russell was kind of trying to make a comeback and take over the game. And the Giants' defense in general is just looking better and better each game, and it's looking like they're kind of getting things together. They may be able to pull out the 6 wins needed to win this division.
No, I mean, we're kind of joking about that now, but I mean, like, pending tonight's game as of recording this, I mean, I'm going to say this, if anybody listening, I think Washington has a good chance to beat Pittsburgh tonight. I think we're going to see a division winner in there with about 7 to 8 wins. Even though we've been joking, it's going to be like 4 to 5. But the defense looked good. And not only did it look good, but they looked like they were like, I don't know, Russell Wilson looked a little rattled back there. He did not look like himself completely. And that's kind of why he takes it down for us. This guy, I mean, is he even in the MVP conversation anymore? Like, is he?
I mean, for me, unless he does some crazy comeback, I think there's no way he wins the MVP at this point. This started off the season letting him cook, and now he started a small grease fire in the kitchen. It's up to him to put it out. Last night, he went 27 for 43, just 263 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and just the whole game looked kind of indecisive, unsure of himself. He's gotten hit quite a bit the last few games, and he's not putting up the numbers that we saw him put up like the first 5-6 games of the season.
No, and I also, on top of that, I mean, like, he does need healthy supporting cast. I mean, he's got great receivers out there. I mean, he did lose Greg Olsen a couple weeks ago, and Chris Carson is playing, and it seems like ever since he came back from injury, every week I see a new interview or report that goes, Chris Carson is at 100%. Well, then don't play him. Put him on the bench. Let him get 100%. If you're going to use that as an excuse, then don't play him. Use your other guys. Carlos Hyde, use him. He's a former starting running back in the league. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson isn't to blame for this loss here, but if you watch that game, go back and relook at any clip. Just pull 5 minutes of any game. He does look unsure of himself. He looks like he's taking an extra 2-3 seconds to make a decision. Russell Wilson does not do that. Russell Wilson takes about 2 seconds, and if he doesn't see it, that guy's gone. He's out of the pocket. I even saw he even had an intentional grounding penalty called against him, and you don't see top-tier quarterbacks get that called against them that often. And he was just rattled completely, as if almost like he was some type of rookie out there. Now, speaking of rookie, Justin Herbert did not look. I mean, Justin Herbert is human. We just found that out. He is officially not a superhuman. He's just a human.
Yeah, and I know Chargers fans are going to be devastated to find out he's not some kind of cyborg. But he's finally had his kind of welcome to the NFL game, his kind of rookie moment. Threw for just 200 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. And I gotta tell you, I'm not surprised that it was against the Patriots, because Belichick knew just how to get in his head and just how to mess with the young rookie quarterback's view of the field, and that's what they did. Shut him out.
No, I mean, and I just want to keep giving myself some props, man, because in our group message that we were talking, I got it to my heart, and you can back this up. In our group message over the weekend, I was telling you, I think this Pats team is going to shut down Herbert. But Justin Herbert did not look 100% like the Herbert that we, have come to know and love. And he just was, I don't even know what it was. I really couldn't pinpoint it. I'm not a former quarterback where I can just tell you what was going wrong here. But he didn't look that terrible, but he just was unable to be as efficient as he needed to be and move the ball. When you have the offensive weapons that you do have, you should be able to move the ball at all times. And he gets the slight down for us. With him getting it down naturally and getting a big up for them is their defense and special teams, who were able to shut down Justin Herbert. Maybe we could say Belichick, because Belichick can check rookie quarterbacks. But, I mean, they had a punt return for a touchdown. They had a blocked field goal return for a touchdown. Right before half. You thought the Chargers were going to get on the board, get a quick field goal before halftime, they say. and then blocked field goal, they say, and then, oh, this isn't very fun anymore, they say. And that's just kind of how it went for him. So talk about this defense, man, a little bit more.
Well, I mean, if you had them on your fantasy team, congrats on the win. This is the worst loss in Chargers history, 45-0. It's also the worst home shutout in the NFL since 1989 when the Browns blanked the Steelers. It was like 51-0, which that's crazy, but besides the point.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst away shutout though, right? Like there's been bigger away shutouts since then, right?
No. No.
We don't talk about that. I'm sorry. Okay, we won't talk about that.
Let's just stop talking about the Pats and anyone ever.
The Pats and Titans snow game. Yeah, okay. Well, keep going, man.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about before, Belichick, he's a defensive genius, and they had the right defense to just kind of shut down this Chargers offense, who's been pretty explosive all year. And I mean, they've got a great wide receiving core, they've got a great stable of running backs, and they just couldn't do anything. So big ups to the Pats defense and special teams.
Now, that game kind of went a way that it was supposed to go at the beginning of the season, and this other game went exactly how it's supposed to go in season. Like, before the season started, you could have looked at Green Bay, Philly, and been like, oh, these guys are going to be a good matchup. Like, either team could probably win. But no. It was not a good matchup. And Green Bay's big three, that's what we're going to talk about is, in the NBA, we talk about big threes. Let's talk about it in the NFL. Lead us off, man. They all get an up for us.
Well, it's the two Aarons, Rodgers and Jones, and Davante Adams all played out of their minds like we expect them to. Rodgers threw for almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Aaron Jones had 15 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown, added in a few receptions along the way. And then Davante Adams, 10 receptions, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, not really a whole lot to say besides that. I mean, these are the big name players on a big name team, and they played like they're supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, they all looked great out there. I mean, Davante Adams had some catches that just, like, that guy is the best receiver in the NFL. I truly think that he is the complete package right now. He is the best receiver this year.
Well, yeah, Tyler said that, not me. I think we probably have differing opinions on that.
No, and that's fair. Now, let's talk about what gets it down. It's not Carson Wentz. It's not the run game. It's not the receivers. It's this damn offensive line, man. They cannot block anybody. And Philly fans, or anybody else across the NFL, it's not bench Carson Wentz because, knock, knock, Jalen Hurts also got sacked several times. He also didn't complete over 65% of his passes. Talk about this offensive line, man.
Yeah, I mean, some sacks along the way of Wentz being the most sacked quarterback in the league. Some of them have been his fault, but we saw that, no, you're right. We don't need to bench Wentz. We need to bench the entire offensive line. Then he'll probably get sacked the same amount, even if he didn't have any blockers out there. They put Hurts in to come and try to, provide a spark. But he still took 3 sacks of his own and didn't play as well. I mean, he didn't play any better than Wentz did.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, this Philly team has used 11 different offensive line combinations in 12 games. So obviously, there's no is it synchronicity? Is that a word? Synchronicity?
Yeah, it can be a word.
Is that a word? Did I just make up a word, or are you saying that's okay to say?
No, you don't let us decide what is words and isn't words.
I mean, over my whole lifetime, my friends have been telling me words that aren't real. Yeah, it's physics. That's what it is. But okay, there's no there's no syncing up here. There's no chemistry. Nobody's blocking well. Carson Wentz is not the issue. Moving on. Sunday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs are going to destroy the Denver Broncos, right? There's no way they could lose to a team that's this bad. And yet Denver did everything right for about 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, and just kind of comes down to a case of crazy divisional matchups. Chiefs offense didn't play. They weren't as explosive as you're used to seeing them. They missed kind of a couple big opportunities to score a touchdown in the game. But, I mean, good teams find ways to win the ugly games. And when the Chiefs offense didn't score a whole lot of points, the defense kind of stepped up, intercepted Drew Lock twice, including one at the end of the game to seal the deal. And I mean, this is kind of our ups, is the Chiefs being clutch. They need to keep winning. They can't afford to drop even one game if they want to take that number 1 seed away from the Steelers.
Can we talk about how the refs didn't even they didn't even blink or bat an eye at Tyreek Hill's I didn't know I just caught a touchdown catching a touchdown catch.
Well, Tyreek Hill didn't even blink at it.
But I'm just saying, nobody was it Fantasy Jesus that was like, all right, I gave you a lot of fantasy points last week, guys. I'm not gonna give you this bomb right now. And he even had another touchdown pulled back where he beat somebody in coverage and then stood at the half-yard line and did a backflip into the end zone. It's he had 2 touchdowns that one was a touchdown, and I don't know what happened. I don't know why there was zero confidence review or anything. And then one where there was a callback. So, I mean, Tyreek Hill looked electric. The Chiefs are clutch. Even though they weren't able to score touchdowns, they were able to move the ball. Harrison Butker is a great field goal kicker. He's somebody that you just got to trust him as one of those kickers. He's one of those top 5 kickers you always trust. Let's talk about Vic Fangio.
He's not an Italian plumber. I hated this decision by Vic Fangio at midfield. They're down 16-19 to the defending Super Bowl champs. Nothing to lose. I mean, the Broncos, it's not like they're not trying to preserve their winning record or anything. I don't know what. They have a 4th and 3, and Vic Fangio decides, all right, let's just punt the ball away with just over 6 minutes left in the game to the most explosive offense in the league. And Kansas City proceeded to reward them by burning another 6 minutes, kicked a field goal, and left Drew Lock with no time at all to make a comeback. So, I mean, cowardly call, cowardly punt. That's a big down for me, Vic Fangio.
And that is going to do it for us here on Second and Short in this week's edition of Monday Movers. Week 13 is in the books, almost. At least Sunday is. For us, it is. Thank you guys for listening. Please click that subscribe button down below to stay up to date on everything that is Second and Short. Be sure to click that like button down below. Give us a little thumbs up. It is the cheapest way to support our podcast. And leave a comment down below on who impressed you and who disappointed you this weekend. And be sure to check us out on all of our social media outlets, such as...
We're on Facebook, where we update every single episode that we make. Also on Twitter, where we try to interact with people with polls and all of that good stuff. And also Instagram, where I forgot to post the pick'em polls in my story, but you'll forgive me because I don't know how many people really do it anyways. We also have news updates, discussion points, and all that kind of good stuff. Drop us a DM on whatever platform, whatever time of day, whenever you like.
A sports-related DM.
Of course.
And thanks for listening. You guys have a great night.